Hey guys, so today we're going to start off by looking at exponent rules. We're going to look at two of the very most important exponent rules, which are the product and the quotient rules. So we can see these on the side. So we have the product rule, which is what happens when we multiply two exponents together. As we can see here, am times an is equal to a to the power of m plus n. So that tells us that when we are multiplying an exponent with the same base, so that's very important, the bases are the same, you can add the two exponents. The quotient rule is when we are dividing exponents that have the same base again, and this base could be any number or any variable, then we're going to be subtracting the exponents. So as you can see, we'll have then a base of a, m minus n. So let's do a few practice problems to try out those rules. So number 1 is saying 4 to the 3 times 4 to the 2. So because this is our product rule, what we're going to do is we're going to keep the base of 4, because the bases are the same, this is going to work. And we're going to do m plus n, which means 3 plus 2. So the answer is 4 to the power of 5. And if we take a look at 2, same idea. Our bases are both 2.5, so we're going to be adding the exponents on the top. We're going to get 2.5 to the power of 3 plus 3, which is actually 2.5 to the power of 6. Just a reminder, these are actually just numbers. However, it's usually easier to leave them in the form of exponents because they can get very large. Okay, so next, if we take a look at number 3, what we need to first check is if the bases are the same. So we have 3 over 5, we have 3 over 5, and they're actually both negative. So the bases are the same, so we're allowed to then add the exponents. So we have negative 3 over 5, 2 plus 3, and that will give us negative 3 over 5 to the power of 5. And that will be our final answer. All right, so now we're going to take a look at the quotient rule. So when we are dividing two different exponents, we're going to be subtracting them. So for example, on the top here, we have negative 3 to the power of 5 divided by negative 3 to the power of 2. So we know that on the top we're going to have negative 3, and we're going to subtract them. So 5 minus 2. And I'm just going to leave the bottom the exact same. All right, and then now I can simplify that. We're actually going to have on the top negative 3 to the power of 3 over negative 3 to the 2. Now what's really interesting is now we have another division problem. So right now we can do the exact same thing, but instead we're going to have negative 3 minus 2. And that is because it was this subtracting this. And then finally we can just write it single. So negative 3 is actually to the power of 1, but we do not need to write that, so we can just leave it like this. So finally, another kind of interesting thing to know is we always have to remember that if there is no exponent written, then it's that invisible 1 up here. Because if it has an exponent of 0, they will write it in. So for example, if we take a look at this one, we actually are looking at both bases negative 5, and since it's the quotient rule, it's going to be 4 minus 1. And so the actual answer is negative 5 to the power of 3. So that's incredibly important to remember because sometimes, since there's nothing written, that gets dismissed. Finally, one other important thing to mention, anything to the power of 0 is actually just going to be 1. So if you ever have anything written, whether it's, for example, 5 to the power of 0, that's just 1. It could be 3 over 72 to the power of 0, that's also just 1. So you can always just simplify anything that's to the power of 0 down to 1. All right, so that was a look at the product rule and the quotient rule. Follow along to check out our other exponent rules. Feel free to subscribe down below and check out some other math videos.